Okay, I want to start off by making sure there are no questions or doubts about how to access your shared Word Online documents. We should be having some text in that one document. This is the one document we're going to use for the entire semester. So I go in periodically, I'll look and see some of your work. Of course, this is also a way that you can email me to say, hey, can you take a look at my work and my document, and then I can take a look at it outside of class. So I've noticed there are a few that have not updated your document at all. So I just want to make sure there are no doubts about how to get into this one document. Yesterday I went in and I left messages to everyone's document. Now it's all different depending on what you're doing, but make sure that you can see my comments, okay, that I left. And just to show you an example, Ramon, can I open up your document? Sorry?
No, I have only small parts.
That's okay. But can I just open it up to show an example?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. So, like if I leave a comment, so along the right-hand side there'll be comments. Now, so if Ramon receives this comment, right, he can reply, right, as a conversation. So you can ask questions if you're not sure about any comments that I leave. You can leave questions here, and then email me, and I'll come in and look at those. But it's always best to email me if you're asking questions so that I can respond quicker, because I don't check every day all of the work. I'll check it maybe once a week, unless you email me, then I'll check it more frequently. So this is a way that we can kind of communicate. Now, what I would ask is when you finish making the changes that I suggest, that you go to the comment and you go ahead and delete the comment. Okay, so please delete the comments as you make the changes, unless you have questions. Okay, if you have questions, leave the comment, ask your question, and then after you make the changes, go ahead and remove the comments. So here's the process is you provide the text, I provide feedback, you make the changes, then you email me again, I leave comments. Like that's the cycle. If sometimes students will send me an email to look at their document, and I'll open up their document and I'll still see all of these comments. So then I usually ask, well, did you make the changes first, right? So I just want to, because the way that I give feedback, I focus on certain things first. I don't focus on everything. I just focus on a few things. And then we make those changes, then I focus on something else. Make those changes, then I focus on something else. So it's common, right, to go through the revision process several times, right? So don't feel frustrated because, well, why didn't you tell me that the first time? Or why do I have to keep making changes? No, that's the process of writing, is going through this. And so I want you to feel comfortable going through this, and because I don't like to give you all the errors all at once. I'm looking for certain things, and so that's kind of that's the system. This is why we're using this Word Online document to facilitate this process of edit, comments, feedback, making changes, new edits, and so on. Okay, so please make sure if you're connected that you can get into the document, that you're able to see my comments, and if you're not connected, make sure you check and let me know by Monday. I just want to make sure everybody is okay with accessing the document, because again, there are a few that don't have anything here in the document. Now, are there any questions about the shared Word Online document? Or how to access it, how to use it? Yes,
I'm not
Alex.
sure if because you sent us an email, but I'm not sure if
Can I open your document here,
Sure, yeah.
Alex? All right. So,
I'm not sure.
and let's see. Yeah, so I don't know if you're uploading it somewhere else. All right. Today I'll send you this link again. Everyone should have received, like the first week of class, a link in your email, in your Edu account. So that's the link that you need to use to access the document. Okay, not the link in OneNote. Those are two different links. So the link that I sent you to your email is a special link that allows you to edit the document. If you access your document via OneNote, you won't be able to edit the document. That's just a view. So if for any reason you didn't get the email or you can't access your document, just ask and I'll send you again the link that you need to use to access your document. So Alex, here in a few minutes, I'll send it to you. Okay? Anyone else have problems accessing your Word online document? I'll give you guys a few minutes right now if you want to check just to make sure. Just want to make sure that you all have access to it. This is where we're going to work all semester. And if you're bringing a computer, feel free to work online. Of course, you can work in real time in your own document. If you're using a notebook, that's fine, but periodically, once every other day or something, at least just go up and upload your data so that it's safe and I can have access to it. Any questions about OneNote or accessing your shared online document? Any questions, doubts about your documents, Word online documents? So if you haven't already, please upload whatever you have. It doesn't matter if it's complete or not. This is not a place that has to have the finished product. This is your work area. So Doesn't matter what if it's complete or not, but I would encourage you to upload your text frequently to the stuff. Okay. All right. Yesterday, kind of want to summarize a little bit what we talked about yesterday. What was the main focus of yesterday's class? What do we really want to focus on? What was the main idea in yesterday? Or what were some key? What were some things that you took away from the class yesterday? Either something new or something.
We saw the coherence.
Alright, so we talked about coherency. And we talked about coherency and we were kind of specific. We talked about different ways that we can be coherent. And what does it mean to be coherent?
It's about
Yes.
Excuse me.
Sure. Okay, so we need to get into do you have a Facebook account? No, I have Facebook. Okay. Porque el link de si quieres entrar, okay. Ya, ¿has entrado en la página de Facebook?
Sí. Si quieres guardar en tus favoritos ya para entrar directamente. Aquí están las semanas. Sí, aquí está. Okay. Okay, so yesterday we talked about coherency. What do we mean by coherency? What does that mean?
structure.
Yes, it's
For instance, between ideas or paragraphs.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
What is it?
Coherence.
Coherence.
That he said it has to be linked. Everything. I mean, since the beginning, the introduction has to do with all the rest of the document.
Right. It has to be organized. It has to link, but it has to be organized. Some sort of structure. Right? Some sort of way that we can organize our ideas so that we can be understood. And yesterday we talked about a few examples, different ways that we can structure our ideas. What were some of those examples that we talked about yesterday? What were some of those options?
Chronological.
Okay. So these are some examples that we can write coherently. So let's make a list here, just to kind of a quick review. So it can be based on time or chronologically. Another way?
How the following the steps of a process.
Exactly. Process. First you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and so on. Process. Chronological.
From the general to the specific.
General to the specific, or vice versa. General to the specific, or specific to the general. Another way.
Another way is maybe go to the sample to the complex or vice versa.
Okay. Simple to the complex, or vice versa. Start off simple, and then we build to more complex things. What else? Another way that we can write coherently.
Compare and contrast.
Compare and contrast. And we also talked about an argumentative. Argument or argumentative. Right? Very much related. We can have a compare and contrast as part of an argumentative too, so we can mix these. Least contestable to the most contestable. This is a really common one. This is like one of those ideas where you start off with, there's not much of a debate, right? I mean, most people would agree with this, right? So you get them to agree, and then you build into things that are really controversial or less, or more contestable, right? So that's another very common.
And it could be vice versa too.
Certainly it could. It could.
Because sometimes you want to impact people.
Yeah, so where would be the greatest impact? The point that is most contestable or the least contestable? And then ask yourself, when do I want to have this impact? Do I want to have the impact at the very beginning and then no impact, or do I want to build up to that impact? Okay, so those are things to think about when you're organizing your ideas. These are some examples. These are some ways here. The two main ideas, concepts that I want you to realize with these organizational patterns. Number one, you can mix these. It's not always just one of these, right? So like I mentioned, when you build an argument, you're many times also comparing and contrasting. If you're looking at two different theories and you're really arguing for one theory, you're going to also compare and contrast those theories in your arguments. Okay, whenever we build a theory, we're trying to present a point of view. We're doing that automatically. We're comparing and contrasting authors, what they say, as part of an overall argument. So the first takeaway here is realize that we can mix these two, or any of these. And number two, these organizational patterns are at the paragraph level, or they could be at the essay level, or they could be at section levels. Right? So you can have, for example, an argumentative organizational pattern for the essay But within that, you could have one paragraph that's process. The next paragraph might be chronological depending on what it is that you're talking about. Okay, so you can mix them, and they're at different levels of written discourse. Paragraph level, section level, or the entire text level. Okay, so those are the two main points that I'd like for you to consider when you're looking at your own text for your concept paper. Look at each paragraph. Can you identify one of these organizational patterns, and does it make sense? Is it logical? Can you be understood by respecting certain organizational structures?
When we mix the paragraph level one kind coherence and the text another kind of coherence.
With another paragraph?
Yeah,
Or the same?
For another level.
Yeah, so let's say for, not so much for this concept paper because it's kind of a short one, but let's say you have like a longer paper. You're probably going to have sections, right? And then within those sections, you're going to have paragraphs. So you can have one paragraph respect one of these organizational patterns. Maybe the overall structure follows another process. Even within paragraph to paragraph, you can have different organizational structures. But it all depends on what? The paragraph, the organizational structure depends on what? At the paragraph level, what does it depend on? The topic sentence, right? The topic sentence is the main idea of the paragraph. So based on what you say in that topic sentence, you should say, okay, I need a process because that's what is in the topic sentence. Or I need chronological organization because in the topic sentence we're talking about some sort of historical event. Okay? So the topic sentence is a clue as to what type of organizational structure that you want to follow. Any other questions, comments about coherency or organization? No? All right, so what else did we talk about yesterday? I think we had...
Unity.
Sorry?
Unity.
Okay, we talked about unity. And when we talk about unity, what are we talking about? What does that mean, unity? Stay on topic. Don't get off topic. Now, that's easy to say, right? Easy to say, hard to do. So unity is to stay on topic, but how do we identify whether or not we're on topic or off topic? What are the key parts of the essay that tells us if we're on topic or not?
The topic sentences.
The topic sentence and topic sentences and what else? And what's the second? So we're looking at a relationship. When we think about unity, are we on topic? We need to look at a relationship between two types of sentences. One, we need to look at the topic sentences of each body paragraph. Remember, topic sentences, we're talking about body paragraphs only. Do those topic sentences align with the thesis statement? And the second is, do the supporting sentences within each body paragraph align with the topic sentence? There are two levels involved here. Actually, there are more levels if you're talking about sections, but the idea is unity. That's what you're looking at as that relationship, those relationships between those two sentences. You could have your topic sentences align with your thesis statement, but all of your body paragraphs not aligned, right? That's possible. Or vice versa. You could have your body paragraphs really align very well, but they don't align to the thesis statements, right? So this is a problem with unity, making sure that we're on topic in terms of these types of sentences. So unity and coherency, that was really the main focus yesterday. And we talked a little bit about also the theme and ream. This also has a lot to do with coherency, ream and theme. And we talked about two different options, two different ways or patterns to follow ream and theme. Now, ream and theme, what are we talking about now with ream and theme? What's important? Why do we even talk about ream and theme? What do we say? Yes?
I don't know even what's ream, sorry, I can investigate. It's like ream, I don't know what.
Alright, so if I say, let's look at an example here. Mike enjoys going to the park. Is this a complete sentence? Is this a complete sentence? See? Or no? Mike enjoys going to the park. Is that okay? Is that grammatically correct? Yes, I think so. All right. Now, a sentence, any sentence, you can break down into having two parts. What are those two parts? In any one sentence, what are those two parts? Okay, grammatically speaking, yes, subject and a predicate. But more generally, not even thinking grammar, any sentence that we say has old information and new information. Or it has something that came first and something that came later. Every sentence that exists, you can break it down into old information or given information and new information. This room has many chairs. This room has many chairs. What came first, the room or the chairs? The room. First, the room existed. Oh, and then later on, by the way, there are a lot of chairs in that room. Okay, so every sentence has those two things, old information, new information. Now, we're going to put special words to that. So we're not going to just say old information or information that came first. We're going to use the word theme. So theme is the old information or the information that came first. Theme, okay, actually, theme. And then ream is what? New. The new information or the information that came later. Right? Mike is tall. What came first? Mike or him becoming tall? Mike came first, right? He existed. He was born, right? He existed. And then, oh, by the way, later on, he grew up to be a big boy, right? Okay, so Mike enjoys playing the park, going to the park, sorry. Mike enjoys going to the park. What is the theme? What is the ream in the sentence? Mike is the theme. And what's the ream? Everything else. Enjoys going to the park. Enjoys going to the park. Ream and theme. Now, we talk about ream and theme not at the sentence level, not just looking at one sentence in isolation. We look at ream and theme to look at how we transition from one sentence to the next. That's what this is about. First, you have to identify the ream and theme, but it's about how do we go from one sentence to the next sentence, and how do we make a smooth transition. We don't want to jump around ideas, right? We want a smooth transition. Smooth, like butter. Like butter. We want it smooth. So if we say Mike enjoys going to the park, what's a possible second sentence? I mean, just off the top of your head, what could be a next sentence to continue this thought? We can keep it in the present tense if you want. We've got Mike enjoys going to the park, so we'll keep it in the present tense. But what could be the next sentence? Let's say that this is part of the overall text. We want to continue this idea. Mike enjoys going to the park.
Play with other children.
Sorry?
Play with other children.
Okay, so how would we begin the second sentence? How could we begin?
When he is in the park.
He? What else?
When he is in the park. He interacts with some friends or something like that.
Okay. Mike enjoys going to the park. When he is in the park, he interacts with friends. So what do you think? Is there, in the second sentence, is there a reading theme going on here? And if so,
yes,
what is it?
reading.
Sorry? Is there a theme?
Probably the part that says when he's in the park because we knew he was in the park.
Okay. All right. So, what do you think? If you had to identify a theme, what do you think the theme?
In the second sentence.
When he's in the park.
Yeah, in the second sentence, right? What's the theme and read? Remember that any one sentence should have a theme and a read.
The theme is in the park. The park.
He?
He.
All right. And the ring?
Interacts.
All right. Now this is a little bit. Go ahead.
Interacts.
Yes. Okay. This is a little. Yeah. Sorry.
The theme he interacts with the theme. The place is indicated in is the ring.
All right. This is a little bit confusing in the second sentence because in any sentence, it's not that we only have one theme sometimes, right? This is a very simple example. This first sentence. But you can have more than one theme and more than one ring. Here, I would say that we still have a theme, he, and a ring could be in the park. He is another theme, and then interacts with friends would be another ring. Technically, that's how I would look at this second sentence. Here's what I want you to realize. This first sentence, what's the theme? And in the second sentence, what's the theme? He. So here's one of our common patterns for rhyme and theme that we can use to connect one sentence to the next. What is it? Same theme, new rhyme. Okay, this is a very common pattern that we can use for moving from one sentence to the next. Mike enjoys going to the park. He also likes to interact with his friends. He goes to the park on Monday. He goes to work on Tuesday. He does this, he does that. I'm following a very common pattern. Same theme, new rhyme, moving from one sentence to the next. The second pattern. Now, is there another option here? What would be another way to continue this second sentence? Instead of when he's in the park, he interacts with his friends. Mike enjoys going to the park.
Because he walks in the park, he plays with another friends in the park.
¿Qué más?
He plays with another park. He plays with friends.
In the park, he plays with his friends. Okay. In the park, he plays with his friends, or we could even say something like this. In the park, let's see, in the park, many in the park, many children gather to sing songs. Whatever. Now, I didn't mention Mike in the second sentence, but I'm connecting the second sentence how? What's the connection between the second sentence and the first sentence?
The park.
The park.
The ring.
So what did we do? We changed the ream to the theme. Now again, we're talking about going from one sentence to the next. These are two very common patterns, and these are patterns that I'd like for you to look at. Look at your work that you've created so far. Think about how you're connecting the ideas in one body paragraph. How are you connecting these ideas? If you follow this very straightforward pattern, your ideas will begin to flow very nicely if you're connecting your ideas. Okay, so you're not jumping from one sentence to the next, from one idea to the next. And this is one way to do this, is to follow these two very common patterns. Now, the last thing we talked about theme and ream is we finished by talking about synonyms. Synonyms. Yeah, we talked about pronouns also. And we're also going to talk about direct. Okay, so synonyms, hypernyms, and hyponyms. Now, what in the world do we mean by synonyms, hypernyms, and hyponyms? Let's look at this example. Mike enjoys going to the park. In the park, many children gather to sing songs. Go to the park, in the park. What am I doing here? How am I connecting this? Okay, I'm changing the ream to the theme, but I'm also using what? Direct repetition, because I'm using exactly the same words. Certainly that is one way to do it. And of course, we could use pronouns. We could use pronouns. In fact, we used a pronoun in the other example. We didn't use Mike, we used he. Perfectly acceptable. We're using pronouns. Now, we can also use synonyms, hypernyms, and hyponyms to connect these reams and themes between sentences. So, let's look at this. Mike enjoys going into the park. Sorry? Park. Think about a park, some sort of word family that's related to park. What would be a word family? When I say word family, any associations that kind of link to the word park? Any ideas? Garden. Field.
Outdoor spaces.
All right, let's go with outdoor spaces. Or how about just the outdoors? The outdoors. The outdoors allows
Are amazing.
allows children to gather to sing songs. Now, you might say, well, okay, but I'm not changing the ream to the theme because park, well, we are in a way. In fact, yes, we are. We're using to the park, and the park is an example of outdoors. So there is a connection there. Now, the question I have for you is, are we talking about synonyms, hypernyms, and hypernyms? What do we do here? What are we doing here? Park is a So my question is for you, park is a blank of outdoors. A park is a hypernym of outdoors, or park is a hyponym of outdoors. ¿Cuál sería? Which is it?
Hyponym.
So park is a hyponym of outdoors. See? Or I could also say what? Outdoors is a hypernym of park. ¿Verdad? Outdoors is a hypernym, right? So hypo. Hyponym, hypernym. Like hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia. Hypertension, hypotension. So these are acceptable ways that we can do it. We could have said, Mike enjoys going outdoors. The park is a great example of we can also go the other way, general to the specifics. It just totally depends on what you're trying to say and what you're trying to communicate. So, to connect the Riemann theme, think of synonyms, hypernyms, pronouns, and direct repetition. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options that we have, plus the 2 options of Riemann theme. All those different options to connect one sentence to the next. And some of these are more appropriate than others, depending on what you want to say. But these are our tools. These are our methods, our ways that we can connect our sentences together. And if we follow and understand this, our writing really becomes nice and smooth. Okay, any questions about this? Easy peasy? Piece of cake?
So.
So? Alright. Let's take a look at an example. Alright, here's an example text. And I'm going to give you a few minutes. I want you to, this is a body paragraph from a student from the semester. I'm going to give you a few minutes to look at this body paragraph. Okay, it's not an introduction paragraph, it's not a conclusion, it's a body paragraph. And based on everything that we've talked about so far, evaluate it, look at it. You can discuss it with your colleagues for a few minutes. See if there's anything that you agree with or that you like about the paragraph. Look at and see if there's anything that you would change in this paragraph. Again, talk with your colleagues, maybe jot a few things down that you would either change or that you particularly agree with or like or could explain based on coherence and unity, Riemann theme, direct repetition, synonyms, hypernyms, hypernyms. If you're connected, you can copy and paste this onto a Word document and do some things with colors if you want.
Where do we find this?
This paragraph, you can find in OneNote in week 3, theme and reading.
Okay.
So if you wish, you can copy and paste this into your Word document and then underline, notate, make comments. See if you can identify the types of, or type of coherence, coherency that the writer is using.
Maybe also punctuation.
Alright, if you want, you can, we'll talk about it as a group. I want to give you guys a few minutes to talk with your partners, maybe a colleague next to you, kind of talk and discuss, see if there's things that you like or that you would change. It can be about punctuation, it can be about anything that pertains to academic writing that you would either change or that you think is being done well. Maybe talk about it with your colleagues, see if you can reach a decision of 2 or 3 things that you like or would change. Sorry to interrupt. Teacher Marta is selling some empanadas. If anybody wants empanadas, or I think so. You're selling?
That's okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Next Tuesday.
They invited me and I decided to come. If anybody's interested, I have some homemade empanadas.
Maybe next Tuesday, please, to me. I won't say it.
What kind of empanada do you
Well, this is
prefer?
sweet.
Small, sweet ones?
Yes, sweet.
That's a question.
What is I have raspberry and
In this,
It could be just a role we would target the role of the instructor in class. Yeah.
because it's
Not saying it's
not
a pure
Yeah. It could be
online.
the role of the instructor in class. And then what we
if you make a little change in the sound, because change to your roles, so it will change what is the same. The second part, the text says the roles, not the role. So it should be the same because we say there is
Is that okay? They said.
open the mind, then it can be defined as the only one role. It's not very,
Yeah,
but it's not very important. You open He prefers
So the question would be, what is it confusing? Start with the role, the singular, and then topic sentence, and then have evidence about talking about the roles.
it's not very at all. You speak of particular there are only one roles. You can ask many questions. Yeah,
That's good.
but because I don't know, I think that this kind of advice is to the idea is to maintain the flow of the information within the
And I hope you like it. Thank you very much. And just an advertisement, if you have a chance and you want to visit our webpage, you can go by Millita Space Cakes. Thank you. Bye.
They try to think about how a reader, that's the objective. How would somebody interpret this? And is it clear or is it confusing? Is it clear what they want to say? Or could there be some confusion? And thinking about this, these two.
I don't know, in language we there are certain tolerance languages. And this can move, and it's not necessarily meaning to be rigid because it's an open. Maybe sometimes confused that stimulates questions.
Let's not confuse. Yeah, probably we should confuse confusion with stimulating questions. I think there's a slight difference between just being confused and the writer generating some deep thinking. Because if the writing is such where you're not sure, what are they saying? I'm not sure what they're saying. It doesn't matter. I think there's a slight difference.
Similar roles, we talk about the link with the piece. I can understand why we put in these roles like the examples.
let's take a look at this body paragraph. And now looking at this body paragraph in terms of coherency, basically anything, right? Anything that we want to comment on, what would be the first observation that you would have? Anything that stands out either that you can recognize as being good as far as academic writing, or something that you would change?
For instance, like everything's wrong with that. It's impossible to understand what they're trying to say.
Okay, so let's be more specific. We can kind of start at the beginning here. Let's be more specific here. Maybe think of the first two sentences, for example.
The first sentence could be the second one, because in the second one it defines the main role of the instructor, and then you can continue with the specific things that the instructor made. I think so.
Okay. Now, yeah, so there's something going on here. I'm not sure I would want to start the sentence with a citation, right? Because we typically want to create our own main idea in our own words. But let's look to this, to Alma's point, looking at the difference here, the role, the theme here, and the theme here. Let's look at that. What do you think about that?
There's a repetition to be avoided.
Okay, it's a form of direct repetition, and you're saying it should be avoided.
Could be.
What's the problem?
You're repeating the role of the structure and then the roles. Maybe there's a way to talk about in the same sentence of the role or the roles. To start with with these connections. But I think that talking about normal observation, I think that the main idea here is he's talking about the way the structure plays during the class, but he or she is mixing the face-to-face and the online as they're different. But it seems it's the same stages or the same processes.
What kind of paragraph do you think this is, as far as if you had to choose an organizational pattern? Sorry? Well, the meal plan is being followed, but think about the list that we remember the list we saw this morning. I think we had chronological process. Any other ideas?
General to specific.
Okay.
I think it's an argument.
Argument? What are they arguing for?
So it says compare and contrast.
Compare and contrast? Why do you say compare and contrast?
Because there are, like they are talking about face-to-face and online, and then the roles, the different roles the teacher can have. So they are comparing face-to-face with online classes, and they are comparing the different roles the instructor can have.
Right. So primarily, the intention of this body paragraph is to be a compare and contrast. Now, like we said, there could be some other patterns as well, right? But primarily, yes, there is the attempt here is to compare and contrast face-to-face with online in terms of the teacher role or the role of the teacher. Now,
We use argumentation also.
yeah, it could be an argumentation. Maybe they're going to argue for one over the other, certainly. Okay. Now, going back to this role and roles, tell me again what the problem here is, starting with the topic sentence, having the theme as being singular role versus That's the second theme being plural. What's the potential problem there?
Confusion.
And
Right.
why? Why is it?
Because you don't know which role he's talking about in the first sentence of the several ones that he's
Right. What type of sentence following the meal plan is the second sentence?
Change the
What part of the meal
Main
plan?
topic.
MEAL. What part of the meal plan is the second sentence of this paragraph? Evidence?
because they are referring out criminal 2011.
Okay, so this is an evidence sentence. Now, evidence sentences should relate to the main idea. And notice how even though they're using, you could actually, it's not technically direct repetition because it's plural, it's more like what? Hypernyms. I mean, the role would be like a hypernym of roles, because roles would be. So notice here, what I want you to notice here is that they're using ring and theme, one of the options, same theme, new ring. They're using a hypernym, but notice that it's still, it can cause confusion. That's my point here. It's like, we can still follow ring and theme and still, break rules or be unclear, right? And so this is one of those things I want to share with you here. Now look at this third sentence compared to the first two. Now what do you notice here? Compare the third sentence with the first two sentences. Any observations?
These are totally different.
Right.
In what respects?
The topic is not the same. Because first of all, it is talking about the function of the instructor and then about the classes.
Okay, so in this sentence, what are we referring to? We said the topic, but more specifically,
The way that the teaching is, it changes totally.
right? The main, all right, or the theme.
Yeah.
The theme.
The theme is totally different.
Notice that the theme in this third sentence doesn't directly relate to anything prior.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the question is, how could he or she fix that? So if the theme is kind of out of place, right? What could we change? How could we change that to make it more coherent? One very simple change could fix this.
You begin with the roles of the instructor in face-to-face and online classes.
Start with the.
Okay,
with the,
certainly the writer can start with
instructor.
roles. It depends on what he or she wants to do, right? I'm going to assume that he or she wants to begin talking about one role. Now, I don't know. I mean, certainly you're right. She could or he could change to roles. But with not really let's say that we just leave it, just for the sake of argument, that we leave it as role. What could we change in the first sentence so that this idea, this theme, wouldn't be just out of place, wouldn't be just all of a sudden talking about it out of nowhere?
It could be during the teaching process online or face to face.
Yeah, he or she could say the role of the instructor in a and online class tends to
Yeah.
The same thing.
Alright, so now we've got this context of, okay, compare and contrast of these two talking about the role. Now, this could be talking about something about the role. In this third sentence, then it's okay to have it like this, even though